When Emily and I bought our home in Willow Creek Estates, we imagined it would be the perfect place to start the next chapter of our lives. The neighborhood appeared serene, its cul-de-sacs lined with immaculate hedges and neatly painted mailboxes. But serenity, I soon discovered, was only an illusion maintained by one person's iron grip, Marjorie, the HOA president. Neighbors rarely spoke her name aloud. They whispered HOA Karen instead, a title she seemed to embrace unconsciously through the way she scrutinized everyone else's lives. To her, every cracked driveway or slightly wilted flower was an offense against the order she believed she alone could enforce. From the moment we moved in, I sensed her disapproval. She looked at me, former Army infantryman, tattoos still visible on my arms, as though I were an unpredictable storm cloud hovering over her perfect suburban sky. She never said it directly, but her eyes carried the message, "You don't belong here." For months, I ignored her. I had bigger things on my mind, most importantly, my upcoming wedding to Emily. After years of deployments and distance, we were finally ready to celebrate love openly, with family and friends. When we compared venues, the prices felt absurd. Hotels demanded small fortunes, and even modest banquet halls seemed intent on draining us dry. That's when Emily suggested the obvious. "Why don't we do it here?" she said one evening, standing in our backyard beneath the string lights we'd hung ourselves. "It's beautiful. It's home." She was right. The yard was spacious, with rose bushes she had planted blooming in neat rows. A white canopy, some rented chairs, and a live band would transform it into the perfect setting. For us, the wedding wasn't about extravagance. It was about sharing joy with 80 of our closest people, right where our new life began. But word travels quickly in Willow Creek, and nothing traveled faster than gossip carried by Marjorie. 2 weeks before the ceremony, an official letter appeared in my mailbox. The HOA logo glared from the top like a warning siren. Hosting gatherings exceeding 20 attendees is a violation of HOA regulations. Cancel your unauthorized event immediately. Noncompliance will result in daily fines and potential legal action. I laughed at first, thinking it was a mistake. After all, I had seen neighbors host birthdays and graduations with no issue. When I asked around, though, the truth became clear. They had all received warnings from Marjorie, but chose to comply rather than risk her wrath. "She's targeting you," one neighbor muttered. "She always finds someone new to make an example of," another admitted. Emily tried to brush it off. "It's one day. We'll keep it respectful. She can't stop us." I wanted to believe that, but Marjorie had other plans. Days before the wedding, she began sending board members to our door, parroting her claims of parking violations, noise disturbances, and safety risks. Their threats weren't subtle. Cancel the wedding or face thousands in fines. I stood my ground. "We'll end the music early. Guests will park down the block. This is our private property." Marjorie gave a thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Not on my watch." The morning of the wedding arrived radiant with sunshine. Emily's dress shimmered as her mother helped her prepare inside. Outside, the canopy was up, chairs lined in perfect rows, and guests filtered in with laughter and anticipation. For a moment, it felt like nothing could touch us. But at 3:15 p.m., as the first chords of music played and Emily stepped onto the aisle, the peace shattered. Sirens wailed in the distance. Within seconds, 3 police cruisers pulled to a stop in front of our home. Doors swung open, and uniformed officers marched toward the gathering. Gasps rippled through the guests, children clutched at their parents, and the band faltered mid-note. Across the street, arms folded and lips curled in triumph, stood Marjorie. Cell phone still in hand, she watched the chaos unfold with the satisfaction of a general watching a battle she believed already won. She had dialed 911. And my wedding, the moment we had fought so hard to create, was now hanging by a thread. The music stopped the moment the squad cars arrived. Conversations fell to whispers, broken only by the sharp slam of police doors. The sight of 3 officers advancing up my driveway felt surreal, as though the world had tilted. Emily froze mid-step, her white gown shimmering under the canopy lights. Her lips parted, but no words came. The aisle stretched before her like a stage, and suddenly every guest was an audience holding its breath. The lead officer, tall and broad-shouldered, stopped a few feet from me. His tone was clipped, official. "Who is responsible for this event?" Before I could answer, Marjorie swept forward from across the street. She moved with smug precision, chin lifted, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I am the HOA president of Willow Creek Estates," she declared. "This man is hosting an unauthorized gathering in violation of neighborhood regulations. Parking congestion, noise, safety risks, it's all unlawful. I demand you shut this down immediately." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Emily's mother pressed a hand to her chest, and my father muttered something dark under his breath. Friends exchanged uneasy glances. The officer turned to me, expression unreadable. "Sir, is this true?" I kept my voice steady. "We're hosting a private wedding on private property. I've reviewed the city ordinances. There's no violation of law here. At most, this is an HOA matter, not a criminal one." Marjorie's voice rose in pitch. "Don't be fooled. He's ex-military, unstable, and now he's turning this quiet neighborhood into a circus. This entire event is a danger to the community." Her words struck deeper than I expected. She wasn't just trying to stop my wedding. She was trying to paint me as dangerous, a threat to the very people I had once served to protect. Emily's eyes brimmed with tears, her hands trembling around her bouquet. The officers exchanged glances, and for a terrible moment, I thought they might believe her. Guests shifted nervously in their seats, murmurs growing louder. The ceremony teetered on the edge of collapse. Then the lead officer's gaze dropped to my wrist. Peeking from beneath my cuff was a faded tattoo, the insignia of my old unit. His eyes narrowed with recognition. "You served?" he asked, his tone quieter now. I nodded. 8 years. Infantry. Honorable discharge. A beat of silence passed. Then something remarkable happened. The officer straightened, squared his shoulders, and with deliberate precision, lifted his hand in a salute. For a breathless second, no one moved. Then his fellow officers followed, raising their hands in the same crisp, unwavering gesture. The crowd erupted in gasps again, but this time, the sound carried awe, not fear. Emily's tears spilled over, though her expression had transformed from despair to pride. My father's hand landed firmly on my shoulder, a weight both grounding and affirming. Across the street, Marjorie's smirk collapsed. She sputtered, confusion twisting her features. What are you doing?" The officer lowered his salute and addressed her directly, his voice sharp. "Ma'am, there is no crime being committed here. This is a private celebration. Unless there's a genuine emergency, we won't interfere." But the HOA rules," she stammered, "are not enforceable by police." He cut her off. "And misusing 911 for personal grievances is itself a violation. Consider this your warning." Her face flushed crimson. She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned on her heel and stormed back across the street, fury radiating from every step. The officers gave me a firm nod. The lead one leaned in slightly, his voice low enough for only me to hear. "Congratulations, sir. Enjoy your day. You've earned it." With that, they returned to their cruisers, leaving behind stunned silence. Slowly, the ceremony resumed. Emily reached me at the altar, her hand trembling in mine. Our vows carried a new weight, forged in fire, sealed in resilience. Yet beneath the laughter and clinking glasses that followed, I felt the tension lingering like a storm on the horizon. Marjorie had been humiliated in front of the entire neighborhood. And if I had learned anything about her in these past months, it was this: humiliation would not end her war. It would only sharpen her weapons. The wedding ended in joy, but beneath the music and laughter, I carried a weight I couldn't ignore. Marjorie had been forced to retreat that day, humiliated before friends and neighbors, but humiliation does not dissolve power. It ferments into something sharper. The morning after, I opened my front door to find an orange slip pinned to the frame. Violation. Unauthorized event. Fine. $5,000. I stood there staring at it, the ink burning hotter than the sun above. By the week's end, 3 more notices appeared, each more absurd than the last. Our mailbox, apparently, was the wrong shade of beige. Our trash bin, visible from the street, violated neighborhood standards. Even Emily's roses, which had bloomed in careful rows, were labeled non-compliant flora. The message was clear. She hadn't lost. She was just beginning. Emily tried to soothe me. Ignore her. She wants a reaction. We'll appeal. But appeals went through the HOA board, and Marjorie ruled that table like a queen. At each meeting, she would listen with her arms crossed, her smirk carved deep into her face, then pound the gavel. Fine upheld. By the 3rd month, the fine stacked higher than our mortgage payments. Thousands of dollars in violations we never committed bled from our account. What was meant to be a new beginning now felt like a slow financial death. One night, after another notice arrived, this time accusing us of unauthorized lighting for the same string bulbs that had lit our wedding, I sat in the living room long after Emily went to bed. My military years had taught me endurance, but I also knew that when the enemy controls the terrain, the first step to victory is understanding it. So I began to study Marjorie the way I once studied maps and missions. I combed through HOA bylaws, highlighting contradictions. I visited the county office to review public records. I spent evenings in the glow of my laptop, cross-checking financial statements the HOA sent against actual maintenance performed in the neighborhood. And slowly, a picture emerged. She had been charging homeowners for common area repairs that never happened. Entire sums were siphoned into vague line items with no accountability. Residents had been fined for violations outside the HOA's legal jurisdiction, threatened with foreclosure for debts they didn't truly owe. It was a kingdom built not on order, but fear. Yet evidence alone would not topple her. I needed allies. I began knocking on doors, speaking to neighbors one at a time. At first, they hesitated, voices hushed, eyes darting to see if anyone watched. But once I showed them what I had uncovered, fear began to shift into anger. An older couple revealed they had paid nearly $10,000 in fines for cracks in their driveway, cracks that were never repaired. A young family admitted Marjorie had threatened to report them to child services because their kids played basketball in the cul-de-sac. One by one, stories spilled out, each more damning than the last. And with them came signatures, affidavits detailing years of harassment, intimidation, and exploitation. By the end of 2 weeks, I had a folder thicker than any HOA handbook Marjorie had ever waved in my face. When Emily flipped through it, her eyes widened. This is enough to bury her. Not yet, I said, closing the file. This is enough to scare her. To defeat her, we'll need to show it to everyone. That night, I called an old friend from my service days, a lawyer now. When I explained everything, he whistled low. She's crossed every line in the book. You've got her dead to rights. But you'll want to strike where it hurts most. Her reputation. He was right. Marjorie thrived on control, but more than that, she thrived on fear. If her neighbors stopped fearing her, she would lose everything. So we made a plan. The next HOA meeting, scheduled in the community clubhouse, would not be her court anymore. It would be her trial. And this time, I would not be standing alone. The night of the HOA meeting, the community clubhouse was overflowing. Every chair was taken, neighbors pressed shoulder to shoulder, their murmurs weaving through the air like static before a storm. Word had spread that something significant was about to happen. At the front sat Marjorie. She wore her authority like armor, pearls at her neck, gavel clutched in her manicured hand, smirk settled firmly in place. For years, she had controlled these rooms, reducing neighbors to silence with little more than a raised eyebrow. Tonight, she clearly expected the same. She struck the gavel once. Order. First item on the agenda, disciplinary action against homeowner. I rose from my seat before she could finish. My folder, thick with affidavits and evidence, rested under my arm. Actually, I said, letting my voice carry, the first item tonight is your misconduct. Gasps scattered across the room. Marjorie's smirk faltered, though only for a heartbeat. "Excuse me? You've spent years abusing your position," I said, moving to the front. "Harassing homeowners. Issuing fines you had no authority to enforce. And worse, stealing from the very people you swore to represent." I spread documents across the table in front of her. Each page landed with a slap. HOA funds diverted into personal landscaping projects. Letters threatening foreclosure that violated state law. Fines upheld without due process. "This isn't just my story," I continued. "These are the voices of your neighbors." One by one, homeowners stood. The elderly couple she had drained for driveway cracks. The young family she had threatened with child services. Each testimony struck harder than the last, and the room shifted. Murmurs turned into angry exclamations. Years of fear were boiling into something new, defiance. Marjorie's face flushed scarlet. She pounded the gavel. "Lies. All of it lies. This man is bitter because he couldn't follow the rules." But even as she shouted, the evidence spoke louder. And then came the final blow. The doors at the back opened. 3 uniformed officers stepped inside, the same men she had summoned to destroy my wedding. The room fell silent as they walked forward, their presence heavy, undeniable. Marjorie stammered, "This is a private meeting. You can't just..." The lead officer cut her off, his tone like steel. "We're here to observe, and to ensure these proceedings remain lawful. Multiple complaints regarding misuse of HOA authority have been filed. Based on the evidence gathered, parts of this will be referred to the district attorney's office for review." Her gavel shook in her hand. "This is outrageous. You can't treat me like..." But her protest was drowned out by the sight that followed. The officers turned toward me, and just as they had at my wedding, they lifted their hands in a crisp, solemn salute. The crowd gasped, then erupted. Applause thundered through the clubhouse. Neighbors rose to their feet, voices blending into cheers that echoed against the walls. For the first time in years, the fear that had kept them silent was gone, replaced with unity. Emily's hand found mine, her smile breaking through tears. In that moment, I knew we had won. The HOA board called for a vote that very night. The tally was unanimous. Marjorie was stripped of her presidency, barred from holding office again, and subject to a full audit of the association's finances. Every fine she had levied against us, and dozens of others, was declared void. Her kingdom had fallen. Marjorie stormed from the room, her pearls swinging wildly, her face pale with rage. The door slammed behind her, but no one followed. For once, the neighborhood didn't bow to her shadow. Weeks later, she sold her house quietly. No farewell, no sympathy, just the hollow silence of a community relieved to see her go. As for us, the months that followed were filled with peace. The roses in our yard bloomed unchallenged, the string lights glowed without threat of notices, and our home finally felt like what we had dreamed it would be, a place of love, not battle. But the memory of that night lingered. The sight of my neighbors rising together, the sound of applause breaking Marjorie's grip, and the salute that sealed her downfall. She had tried to ruin our happiest day, to mark me as dangerous, unworthy of belonging. Instead, she revealed the truth. Power built on fear collapses the moment people refuse to bow. And when it did, the salute wasn't just for me. It was for all of us who stood, at last, unafraid.